Hello everybody. My name is Chris Ding, and I have been working in the cloud and the cybersecurity areas as an architect for more than 20 years. On the past 20 years, I have been working for many large-scale of projects and help the client to do the designs, migrations, and ultimately moving closer towards the cloud. Now, I'm going to spend some time just trying to look at how we're going to have the cloud journeys. First of all, Amazon and Azure and Google, they have very similar cloud product. And also, all of the cloud providers, they also have real architect frameworks, which help the client users to identify the requirement, match the solution architecture towards the requirement. So actually there's 5 different pillars: operation efficiencies, resilience, security, high performance, and cost. Those are the 5 different areas which is for the customer incentive to moving towards cloud. Now, so literally there's the list of the question which is usually should go back to a customer and ask them. Those questions should be including such as what will be the reasons for the cloud migrations? Are you looking for, do you have any particular application which is really have performance issue, or do you have the challenges in terms of like BCPs or disaster recoveries? How you find out the fault tolerance work? It is going to be a challenge on past. And also, do you have any contract which is going to be expired very soon within the existing data center premises? How are you going to manage the cost? So those questions are helping the client to identify the real incentive to moving towards cloud. Second, we need to help the client to identify internally their willingness to move to a cloud. So moving to a cloud is not just infrastructure. Moving cloud also going to side to side work with those applications and data. Without application and data, your cloud journey will not going to be very successful. So for instance, you should help the client to identify, do they want any change on the application, no change, or tiny change, or maybe a bigger change. If they want no change, then lift and shift, just like on the past. Maybe just move some of the workload, turn on some of the virtual machines, and bring on some of the instance towards the cloud. That is the idea. Or if the client is willing to accept some of the small change, such as on the past that has been managed their SQL server, Microsoft SQL server, or that has been managed their MySQL server, or maybe they have their Redis servers which are doing caching, and they're willing to look at some configuration changes. So in that case, you can probably use the, let's say, RDS, or maybe DynamoDB, or maybe the caching, memory caching services. Or the customer probably find out they need to restructure, re-architecture the applications. So they're willing to move towards microservices or maybe serverless. They're probably looking at the options to do the containers and Kubernetes. But also, they are looking at maybe decoupling the existing application with API gateway plus SQS maybe, plus Lambda, plus DynamoDBs. If that's the scenarios, then you have to work the client on big changes. You also have to work with the client to identify their RTO and RPO, and also their business strategy as business BCP requirements. The RTO usually is referring to the downtime, the minimum downtime the client willing to accept, or the maximum downtime they can accept on the business level. The RPO, which is usually that's recovery point of time, which is the last backup data. The two backup, or we can say the frequency of the backup. Let's say if the backup windows is 6 hours, then the RPO is 6 hours. Obviously, cloud can help the client to improve their RTO and RPO, but customer, they have to be aware that also there's more cost. Cloud offer customer with better options, not just on the scalabilities, such as RDS, replication, synchronization, multi-zonings, multi-zone RDS, or multi-AZ, but also those auto-scaling groups of the workload servers, EC2 instance, and those load balancing things. There has been increased the RTO and RPO quite significantly as well. Number 4, you have to help the client to identify. The client also have to come up with the things they can tell you about what's the customer basis, segmentations, geographical distributions. Were they going to have more customer in the States, in Asia, compared with in Australia? In that cases, they help you to pick up the right PVC in the right region, in the right availability zones. So you're going to in line with your resources with your customer. But also, Amazon and Azure, they have a lot of global products such as CDN, CloudFront, CloudDoor, FrontDoor, which helping the customer to do the agent edge cachings, so it can closer to the customers in terms of those content deliveries. Not just that, but also there's some other caching product which going to help, and database product as well, which helping the client to deliver those data faster, closer to the edge. Some other question you probably have to identify is what's the current single sign-on. That they're using SAML 2.0, or are they using OS 2.0, open authentication, or are they using like Open ID Connect, which is to connect the third-party providers. Some other questions you have to ask: what sort of the right load balancers? What sort of auto-scaling method Contiq using? Because those questions can help the client to identify or help you to identify what sort of right load balancing product you should use. In Amazon, they have 3 different load balancing, or maybe 3 or 4 different load balancing products. The first one, which is a legacy, classic load balancing product. The new one, if this is HTTP based, which is application load balancers. If this is TCP or UDP based, then this is network load balancer. But also, if you have tremendous traffic, which is in the certain zones, and particularly this is for the security PVCs, you can have the gateway load balancers. You should also help the client to identify application and their runtime environment. Either use Maven or JSONs. This all going to help on the solutions. Sometimes the questions such as application are they stateful or stateless, and how the client keep those state informations. What's the current database? How is it configured as a torrents, HA torrents? Is there any part? Other questions may relate here, such as does application on the public or private? What's the security configuration looks like? Do they use any hardware like HSM, encryption keys to manage the keys to manage those encryptions or not? What's the backup, uninstall, and restore scenarios? And how they monitor the traffic and users, and how they do the log collectings, how long the retain policies, etc., etc. So those questions going to help a good architect to understand the current scenario, and also based on the well-architect frameworks, it's much more easier to go through the best practice from both Amazon and Azure, Microsoft Azure, and come up with solutions.